What is going on, everybody? It is Bootleg Noob here. I'm at the EICMA show, which is pretty sweet. I randomly ended up here because I was actually doing a little trip with my girlfriend in Paris, and then I remembered that the EICMA show is happening in Milan, and I was like, well, tickets are pretty cheap to go to Milan, so we're going to go check out some of the coolest bikes, and we're going to make sure that the audio quality is pretty good using this little microphone. And after we go and check out some of the best of EICMA has to offer, we're going to go back to the hotel and discuss them in detail, so let's go! This right here is definitely the bike I wanted to take a look at the most at this show. So the first thing I found, it's the brand new Clio Rs 660, one of the most exciting middleweight bikes to come out in the last, 10 years, since Yamaha kind of came out and revitalized the R6. Triumph's got the new 765 Daytona. Aprilia's taken a new kind of approach to this. They're making it lightweight, giving it a parallel twin. I've got lots and lots of thoughts on this one. Definitely going to go and check it out a little bit more and talk a little bit more about it later on as well. But man, it looks really cool in person. Oh, I'd love to take a rip on this thing on the track. Now, the one thing I do regret this year is not getting a press pass. Last year was a lot better because I wasn't around all these people, but it's still pretty cool to see the bikes here, sort of last minute in Milan. But man, this RS 660 looks pretty sweet. Now, I gotta say, this 210 660 concept is kind of a big deal as well. I think this is for guys who are looking for, something a little more straightable, a little more upright. This is the bike here. This could be a great competitor if they can keep the price controlled a little bit. Great competitor to the FZ07, that category of motorcycle. Obviously much more upmarket, much more premium with the electronics and all that, but nonetheless, a stunning looking motorcycle and looks like an absolute blast to ride. Another one of those must rides for 2020, absolutely. So here's a bike a lot of folks are interested in. This is the naked version of the Ninja H2. I gotta say, it kind of doesn't really look that great in person, honestly, but a supercharged naked bike is a supercharged naked bike, and I'll take what I can get. It does look pretty fun, pretty cool, but yeah, not really translating well in real life. The photos on the internet looked a little bit better than these in real life, but still a cool bike. Now, this is really interesting to see from Kawasaki. They've got a big EV concept bike on display here. Really did not expect to see this from Kawasaki. You're not really seeing too many of the major players getting involved in e-bikes, but it seems like everyone's kind of trending this way in the marketplace, kind of resembling the car manufacturers in that way. Everyone's kind of coming out with an EV, but to see a major Japanese manufacturer come out with a new EV would be pretty sweet, so kind of cool to see this right here. One bike that I'm trying to find and that I can't find is the new 250cc four-cylinder Kawasaki sort of starter bike for the Asian market. I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm looking. Now we're here at the KTM booth, and this one's been a bit of a surprise. It is the new 390 Adventure. KTM kind of going for that CRF 250 rally market with the up-spec tiny adventure touring bike. I'm actually really excited about this one, mostly because I think some guys think that they have to get a big BMW GS to go on a big adventure, but I love the lightweight, light adventure bike trend. I think it's hopefully going to spur the market along a little bit, and it does look pretty good in person. Let's go take a look at the other one over here. Got them in some different colorways. It's a sharp-looking little bike, I love that it comes factory with that beefy skid plate. Looks like it has a good handlebar situation, nice reach to it. I would have liked to have seen a high fender, maybe not as bulbous of these lights that KTM puts on here. I don't know why they keep doing this. It's a bit ugly, but looks like a very capable and fun adventure motorcycle. Here's another one that I think took a lot of people by surprise. Husqvarna came out with an adventure bike. I'm not really too sure of the specs on this one. I just found out about it today, actually, but I'm assuming it's based on some KTM platform, but it does look super cool. Kind of a retro theme with these yellow auxiliary lights and the single headlights, but it's a really sharp-looking motorcycle. And they've also got this super sports concept over here, probably based on the RC390. Really sharp-looking bike. Very cool. We're going to find out more information about this one and speak about it in the hotel later. And you guys already know we got to go take a look at the Scrambler and Ducati stand, being that I'm a Ducati Biscotti boy now. And a little birdie told me they've got a brand new adventure bike concept, so let's go take a look. So after battling the crowds a little bit, Ducati has these two new concepts. This is the Desert X, based on the Scrambler 1100. Really sharp looking bike, kind of reminiscent of Ducati's old Dakar efforts. Definitely want to look up more information about this one. I'm loving the tires that it comes with. It's very aggressive. I love the super beefy skid plate it's got going on. You don't see that on a desert sled. And then they've also got this supermoto concept over here, which is super cool. You really wouldn't expect that from Ducati, but I mean, the Scrambler lineup has been so popular for them. I don't blame them for doing something like this. But this Desert X, if it comes out anything close to looking like this concept, they're going to sell this thing like crazy. What a good looking bike. And over here, the bike that a lot of folks are interested in and talking about, it is of course the new Ducati V4 Street Fighter. This bike has been covered to death. You guys already know what it is. It's a V4 Panigale Street Fighter. Glad to see the Street Fighter name back in action. It's a really cool looking bike. It looks great in person. And yeah, I would love to take a rip on one, but I think there's more interesting options to see here on the show, so let's go take a look. It is definitely times like these when I wish I'd planned this event a little bit better and scored a press pass like I did last year, but that is the nature of the beast, so we are dealing with all these crowds of people. Oh my god. Apparently Triumph have some new motorcycles, but I'm not too interested in that because they don't cut me some sponsorship checks for free promotion. So, moving on. So, a bit of a dark horse in the EICMA show is the refreshed V-Strom. Looks like the ADV market is getting a lot of love, and I mean, it makes sense. ADV bikes sell way more than sport bikes, so of course they're going to get some more love. I actually think it looks quite cool with these gold wheels, the auxiliary lights. I think auxiliary lights are really going to be in these coming years. I like that they're doing the new square headlight, kind of looking like the Katana. I don't know the specs and what all has changed on this specific V-Strom, but I will look it up later and we will discuss in the hotel room. But it is looking pretty good. Pretty cool V-Strom update. Alright guys, it's the moment of truth. We are going to go to the Honda booth and try to find the new Cbr1000rr Fireblade Sp. Let's go! Alright guys, here she is. It is the new Cbr1000rr Fireblade Sp. Crazy name, but it's very exciting to see a Japanese manufacturer making a 215 odd horsepower super bike. So it's going to be really exciting to see what everyone thinks of this motorcycle, see if it lives up to BMW S1000rr, Ducati V4S, that type of competition. Should be pretty cool to see. It looks pretty awesome in the flesh. I think some of the photos have been a little bit polarizing, but it does look pretty cool. Apologies for not getting a better angle on it, but it is a little crowded here at EICMA today, as you can tell. Now, here's one of the more exciting models from this year's EICMA show, and a little unexpected, but if you're a bit of a Harley insider, you probably expected this one. So this is Harley's new Pan America motorcycle, an adventure offering from the well-known cruiser manufacturer in America. Kind of an oddball motorcycle. I'm going to look up full specs on it a little bit later and tell you guys about that, but it looks like it's going to be fitting right into that ADV market. I think a lot of guys are going to be interested in this. A lot of American adventure riders could be very interested in this motorcycle if it's a compelling price point, if it's a compelling horsepower, compelling feature set. That's very, very important in the ADV market. Looks like it's going to come with a full, color TFT type of display. It comes with handguards. I don't know if this one is all specced out or anything, but this is a really cool motorcycle from Harley Davidson. It comes with these pretty aggressive trail-oriented tires. Let's see how the rear kind of looks here. So it looks like it's going to come with a sort of like 160, 170-ish size rear tire, but a really, really cool motorcycle from Harley Davidson. I got to give it to him. Really, really neat. So besides the Panamera, this is another bike I'm really interested in from Harley. It looks like they're finally stepping up, getting into the middleweight market, getting into the sport bike market really in earnest with a liquid-cooled 975cc V-twin. As far as I understand, this is the Bronx model, and it looks really sweet in real life. This should be competing most closely with something like the Kawasaki Z900, maybe the Yamaha MT-09. It's a really great looking motorcycle, and if Harley can pull off the good blend of power, weight, and performance, then it should be a real winner, and I'd love to test ride one when possible. We got another display here of the frame, which is really cool to see. But again, Harley has to make sure that they land the price and performance balance. This thing, it can't be 115 horsepower, $17,000 and weigh 550 pounds. I would really prefer to not see a competitor to the FTR 1200. The FTR 1200 is a great bike, but I think this could play in a very, very different segment, and if Harley can pull it off, could be a game-changing motorcycle for them. So let's see how that plays out. Alrighty guys, this is like a super unprofessional Yammie Noob video, but I really apologize for this like webcam levels of production we've got going on here with my tiny little baby microphone and in this hotel room in Milan. But I did want to go in depth and talk about the bikes that I saw today at EICMA, some of the really cool stuff, some of the really not so cool stuff, and just dive a little bit deeper on the bikes you just saw in those clips back there. So let's get into it. I think the thing we got to talk about, or an overarching theme for EICMA, is that I think it was the year of the adventure bike, 2020, 2021. It's definitely the year of the adventure bike. There's so many interesting adventure bike offerings kind of going around. Adventure bikes are segmenting, they're getting smaller, they're getting bigger, they're getting more complicated, they're getting less complicated. And I think this is due to the fact that motorcyclists are looking for more varied types of riding. I think a lot of guys are just getting sick of riding on the street and want to explore something different. I credit a lot of content creators for kind of bringing adventure riding and off-road riding into the fold, dual sport riding even, as it were. People like Fort9 and Mototrek and those kind of guys, even myself to a very small extent with the Desert Sled, I've started off-road a little bit. It's a lot of fun, and I think that's been a big theme that we've seen manufacturers respond to. The other big theme, obviously, is the Hyper Naked, the over 200 horsepower naked bike. Is a big theme in EICMA as well. Massive performance numbers, crazy top speeds for the super sports, not necessarily for the naked bikes. But yeah, let's get into this. So the first bike I want to talk about is the Aprilia RS660 and the Concept RS 210 or just 210 package or platform. Easily the most exciting motorcycle at EICMA, in my opinion. Number one, the most exciting motorcycle. I think it's so great that someone like Aprilia or a manufacturer like Aprilia has come out and responded to a growing, I'd say kind of grumbling about, massive 200 horsepower motorcycles, big super sports, and all kinds of crazy stuff. I love the sort of back to basics approach of a lightweight 100 horsepower motorcycle, easy to ride, comes with electronics, a huge deal in this class for this bike to come with a full suite of electronics. I am crazy excited about this motorcycle. I think the throwback in the red and purple scheme, like the old 90s motorcycle, is super cool too, like the old RS250. I think the RS660, if they can position it well, if they can price it correctly to kind of fall in line with that upmarket 650 class bike, things like the CB650R, the Ducati Monster, even the Street Triple, even though it's a bit bigger now and it kind of is cresting towards that $11,000, $12,000 price point with some of them. If Aprilia can make this motorcycle for anywhere from like $10,000 to $12,000, it'll be a massive hit. It's probably going to come in closer to like $12,500, $13,500 out the door type of thing. Aprilia is a premium manufacturer. If they can somehow pull a miracle and make it cheap, it's going to sell like crazy. I am so excited to try this bike. I would love to get my hands on one. So for me, number one bike of the show, no doubt. One of the big disappointments for me was the Kawasaki H2 Naked, the Naked H2. One, for me, I don't really understand the appeal of the Hyper Naked over 200 horsepower, no fairing motorcycle. I don't see the purpose on street. I don't see the purpose on track. It's not a bike that I would want to own. I also think that the looks were not really that successful in person. I saw the images online, thought it looked pretty cool, went and saw it in person, wasn't super impressed, but I think it's super cool that Kawasaki came out and made a supercharged leader class naked motorcycle. That's insane. That's crazy. You got to give them credit for doing that. Their partnership with Bimota and the H2 as well was crazy, if you guys caught that. And the big elephant in the room that wasn't at EICMA, at least I couldn't find it, was the 250cc four-cylinder Ninja. I didn't see that bike anywhere. I know it's been talked about a bunch, but I didn't personally see it anywhere. I would have loved to have seen it and checked it out, but I didn't see it, so I didn't want to talk about it. But the H2 Naked, kind of a disappointment, honestly. I didn't really like the way it looked. I don't really get it. Another super cool motorcycle is the KTM 390 Adventure. This was such a surprise to me, but I love that adventure bikes are getting smaller, they're getting simpler, they're getting cheaper as well. I think that a lot of guys, I like to think that everyone kind of starts their journey with, an R6 or an R1 in mind, but a lot of guys find out about adventure bikes and want to start riding, but something like a GS1200 is so inappropriate for a beginner. They're way too big, way too powerful, way too heavy. You're not going to learn properly on a bike like that. So for KTM to, I think 2 years ago, make the 790 Adventure was a great move. Still a bit crazy for a beginner to ride that as their first bike. The Tenere 700, which was also there, super cool. But now this 390 Adventure is the perfect option for a beginner rider who is wanting to go adventure, wanting to go kind of dual sporty, but doesn't want like the CRF250 Rally. This thing is going for that thing's throat like 100%, and if I were to choose between the CRF250 Rally and this bike, it would probably be this one. I was a little disappointed to not see a high-mounted fender and a couple other adventure-specific modifications on this bike, but I'm sure the aftermarket will address them. It's got a great curb weight. It's got a good skid plate on it from factory. I think it's going to be a blast and a really good starting point for a lot of adventure riders. Speaking of adventure, the Husqvarna Norden 901 concept, I found out what that was actually called when I came back and researched a little bit about it. It's not out yet, but it's based on the KTM 790. It's that really pretty Husqvarna gray and neon green type of bike. Again, 2020, 2021, it's the years of the ADV bike. This Husqvarna looks so cool. It's such a cool looking motorcycle, and I would kill to ride one. It looks like a lot of fun. We don't know much about it just yet. All I've seen on it are the sort of the big skid plates based on the 790 Adventure, so it's going to be good right from the factory. It's a bit bigger engine, and it's got the handguards, and it looks great. That's all we really know so far, but it's looking good. Another super cool adventure motorcycle comes from Ducati, actually. More so than the Multistrada, Ducati is making a bare bones, more simple, more basic adventure concept bike in the Desert X, which is super cool. I own a Ducati Scrambler Desert Sled, which I love very much. Super capable off-road motorcycle, more capable than my skills have anything to do with. But the Desert X is even beefier, even bigger, even more adventure-y than the Scrambler. I think personally that the Desert Sled is a better, more off-road capable motorcycle than the Desert X, but I haven't ridden them back-to-back, but in seeing the specs on paper, I would personally prefer to have the Desert Sled. It's going to be lighter than the Desert X, so for me, I'd still rather have the Desert Sled, but it's such a cool-looking motorcycle, harkens back to Ducati's old Dakar days. But for me, that 1100cc Scrambler engine really puts it in the company with like the BMW GS and that kind of stuff. I don't think it's going to play ball with the 790 Adventure, the Tenere 700. It's a little bit too big for those, but a really cool concept nonetheless. One bike that had everyone talking that I actually wasn't super excited about, but I know everyone else is the new Ducati Street Fighter V4 and V4S. I don't know if they're making two versions of it. I think it's just the V4S. Over 200 horsepower, Street Fighter name is back, V4 engine, it's amazing, it's super cool. It's the bike that Carlin Dunn was riding, rest in peace, on the Pikes Peak race. It's an amazing platform. But yeah, for me personally, I think 200 horsepower in a naked bike, it doesn't make sense on track, because if you're hitting speeds of over 110 even, you're already going to run into air resistance problems. It doesn't really make sense on the street because it's got 200 horsepower. It's, you're going to ring it out in first gear, or you're just going to wheelie constantly. Wheeling super fun, but for me, I like exploring and utilizing a motorcycle. So I wasn't super stoked on it. I didn't really care that much about it. Also, I feel like we've been talking about it for a long time, so I kind of just looked at it and left and just kind of kept rolling. There were a bunch of other bikes I wanted to take a look at more than that bike, but still really cool that Ducati is now in the fold in the hyper naked market. I think it's a great fit as a halo bike atop of the monster lineup, or it sits kind of alongside the Panigale range as well. Really cool motorcycle. Super, super cool. One of the heaviest hitting motorcycles of all of EICMA is the Honda Cbr1000rr Fireblade Sp. Easily the most ridiculous name in motorcycling right now. It's got so many R's you would swear it's a pirate. It's, what is it now, race replica, race special? Like, what is going on here? But this is a really, really big deal. Honda now is entering the fold with Aprilia, Ducati, BMW, with that 215 Halo Superbike, crazy top end performance, crazy electronics package, super lightweight. But the big story here is that this bike is going to be homologated for race duty. Honda's sort of master plan was pulling Alvaro Bautista out of Ducati from World Superbike, get him on this homologated Honda, really start ripping and start winning, much like they do in MotoGP. Now, some people might say that Honda's only winning in MotoGP because of Marc Marquez's amazing talent. I tend to agree. Marc Marquez is an incredible rider, and he could probably make any bike be number one because of how good he is. But Jorge Lorenzo would love you to believe that as well. But I really like seeing that Honda's making these moves, making this kind of master plans to start dominating in World Superbike as well, because they weren't finishing super competitively there either. So it's going to be really exciting to see a Japanese manufacturer going neck to neck with BMW, Ducati, and Aprilia for the Superbike supremacy. So nothing but exciting news to come out of Honda for the next, I'd say, like 2 to 3 years for sure. So definitely stay tuned for that one. One bike that was a bit of a surprise to me too, I didn't see it coming, I didn't know anything about it before I got to the show, was the new Suzuki 1050 V-Strom and their new V-Strom lineups. Totally makes sense for Suzuki to start, preemptively updating their adventure offerings, because holy crap, that market is getting so competitive. Adventure bikes are getting like, oh my god, they're segmenting, they're evolving, they're changing, everybody's throwing everything they got, because apparently, there's a horde of 30 to 40-year-old men who are willing to spend $30,000 on a motorcycle that no one knew about before adventure bikes. So everybody's going completely hog wild and jumping on the adventure trend. So V-Strom's been there for decades at this point, but they've got the new 1050 upgraded, I think 6 more horsepower than the old one. It's still, budget-friendly option, great platform. It's been around for a long time. You know what you're getting, a known quantity. And now it looks really cool. It matches the Katana. It's got those kind of retro looks to it. The 1050 is a cool bike, but I wasn't super stoked on it. So one of the biggest announcements of the show, and I think one of the big showstoppers, was the Harley Pan America. This is a really big deal. Harley, as many of you guys know, they're known specifically for big, slow, heavy cruisers, but I think they got a lot going on in the back end right now. Their stand at EICMA had a full circle, huge display dedicated to e-bikes. Everybody was doing e-bikes as well, which is super cool to see. They had a huge live wire display. They had a huge display for the Pan America. They're massively investing in new styles of bikes, new technologies, and I think it's only going to serve them well. I think Harley could very much end up being kind of like Ducati in the sense that their cruisers are going to be like Ducati's Scramblers. It's going to be their bread and butter. People are going to buy them. Even though the market is aging out a little bit for them, it's a classic known quantity. And, you think cruiser, you think Harley. And so I think they're always going to be able to sell those. But in order to make ends meet still, in order to stay competitive, in order to stay relevant, you got to offer a wider variety of motorcycles, and you have to be a full-line manufacturer like Ducati, like Yamaha, like Honda. And of course, Harley's never going to be like Yamaha and make, 450 off-road race bikes and super bikes and compete in MotoGP. They're never going to do that, but to see them approach that kind of echelon is cool. To see them make the Pan America is cool. The bike looks cool in person, and it's just exciting to see. As an American, you stay a little bit, you're on the defensive of Harley a little bit. You're on the defensive of Indian a little bit. You're like, oh, please let us have a cool manufacturer for motorcycles here in the USA. Well, not here because I'm in Milan, but you know what I mean. The Pan America is a dope bike. I really hope they make it and can execute a motorcycle that is cheap enough to where it makes sense and competes with what it needs to compete with, and offers enough performance and weighs the right amount of pounds to stay competitive in the market. But I hold my breath a little bit. We will see. Last but not least, in following Harley as well, is their Bronx Motorcycle, their middleweight sport bike, which is super cool. Harley is now going to make a 975cc V-twin powered, of course the V-twin powered, sport bike. It's probably going to compete in terms of price with something like the Street Triple, the Ducati Monster, the KTM 890, and that's some stiff competition. But if Harley can pull off a motorcycle, here's the thing, it doesn't even need to be amazing. It doesn't need to destroy all those other in competition. As long as it's not insanely overpriced, and as long as it's not crazy underpowered, Harley stands a chance in the marketplace because of how much cachet the brand carries. I think that they have a lot of work to do, but the Bronx shows a lot of promise, and it's super cool to see them making it. Last but not least, we also have some honorable mentions. Triumph came out with the new Street Triple. They got the new Daytona 675R. Pretty cool. Iterative a little bit, but still pretty cool. BMW's got the new F900. I didn't go and check that out, unfortunately. I was a little pressed for time and kind of rushed through there. There's probably a bunch of other bikes I forgot that are super cool as well, but that kind of wraps up my coverage of EICMA. Again, guys, I'm super sorry about the low quality here, but I literally booked these flights to Milan because I was in Paris like 2 days before even coming here. I didn't even have a press pass, so I had to go in with everybody in the normal show. But it was a lot of fun. EICMA is always great. If you have the ability, if you live on the European continent, I would massively encourage you to go to EICMA next year. It's so much fun to go see the bikes. It's a huge festival of motorcycles and all kinds of cool stuff. It goes on for days and days. It's really, really fun. If you live in America, I know it's a bit of a trek, but if you can time it with some other big trip you're taking, EICMA is definitely worth it. One of the coolest shows, the biggest announcements of the year, always come out at EICMA, and it's just a great time. So thanks again for watching, and tune in next time. See you later.